Joining us, former State Department senior advisor for Israeli-Arab negotiations, Aaron David Miller. He's now a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. U.S. national editor for the Financial Times, Ed Luce, and MS Now senior national security reporter, David Rowe. David, I will begin with you. We had all been watching an airport near the White House, looking for J.D. Vance all morning to see when he was going to take off. After all, he had to go to get the Iranians to go. How did this fall apart?
It's not clear at this point, and part of the Times reporting, and I'm just honestly basing this on what the Times has said, is that Vance could still go. He could go at a moment's notice. But apparently the Iranians have refused to accept some specific proposals already by the U.S., and that's caused this delay to happen here. You know, that said, this is not a good sign. So,
Aaron, it seems like, according to the Times, the sticking point here is the same sticking point as it always is, which is the nuclear program and enriching uranium.
Look, Katie, I think, and thanks for having me, I think the broader issue, though, is this, that the Iranians know exactly what they're doing. I think they're using, playing on the administration's fear that this could drag on and the president's determination to find a pathway out. And they are basically saying, we will negotiate, except you, the Americans, need to remove or at least ease or make it unmistakably clear that you are easing the blockade that you've imposed. I think this is an issue. This is a bargaining issue. I think the Iranians are prepared to go back to the battlefield if necessary. They know the blockade is a potential weapon against them, and it probably hurts. Plus, it doesn't help given the fact that the Americans have now, the U.S. Navy has now seized two Iranian or two, at least one Iranian flagged vessel. So I think this is a negotiating ploy. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that there are positions that the Iranians aren't responding to. This is an effort to use their leverage to get the U.S. blockade opened. And if it isn't eased, I suspect they're prepared to accept the consequences, which is escalation.
Is this ultimately, though, a game of chicken? I mean, is that what the U.S. is engaged with? Who can last longer on this? Aaron?
Yeah. And it's a question of two clocks ticking at different speeds. It may have something to do with the fact that you now have we've gone from, as someone said, divine power, the domination of the clerical establishment, Ali Khamenei, who's now dead, to hard power. The IRGC is making it unmistakably clear they're in charge, and they need the blockade removed. I don't think this has anything to do with, the administration line that they haven't responded to American positions. I mean, exactly what does that mean? I don't think that's the reason we're in this sort of crisis within a crisis. I think the Iranians are playing on the fact that their clock is ticking more slowly, and they're prepared to accept the consequences of no negotiation and believe that the president is not prepared to accept no negotiations.
So, Ed, explain the ticking clocks here. Explain why the U.S.'s clock is ticking potentially faster than the Iranians and how it relates to the economy.
Well, the Iranians, I mean, I'd agree with Aaron there that I think the Iranian clock is ticking slower. And the Iranians feel they have months' worth of oil reserves and revenues from pre-existing oil exports that can tide them over, that they've had, years and years of sanctions that they've survived, and that they can therefore, they have a higher pain threshold than Trump. They're less impatient to get to the negotiating table than Trump. So I guess what they're signaling here is that they don't need to negotiate under duress. This is kind of a power move. And if you like, they might be betting on a Trump always chickens out, a taco moment here, where Trump is forced to partially lift the blockade or make some kind of a signal in order to get the Iranians to the talks. But, we should bear in mind all the while that there's a lot of murkiness about the power structure inside Iran. And it's also possible that over and above what we've been discussing, there is disagreement within the Iranian regime about how best to approach these talks.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. I think it's worthwhile. The Iranian regime has went through some changes, put it that way. Are we confident that there is a power structure, a chain of command that is unbroken right now? Have we even seen the new Ayatollah yet? Are we confident that he's alive, not injured?
We have not seen him. We've heard that he's injured, but there were just Secretary Hegseth said this earlier, that the Iranians were digging out missiles that were buried as part of these U.S. airstrikes. They can use them apparently still. So that to me shows command and control. And look, I think the Iranians are negotiating effectively here. And I think this is exposing the core failure in the U.S. strategy, which was this belief that airstrikes alone will bring Iran to its knees. That has not happened, and they're clearly not, and maybe they're bluffing, but they're clearly not afraid of more U.S. bombs.
Who told the president that?
Well, there's the New York Times reporting about Bibi Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, saying that the Iranian people would rise up and predicting it would be a short war.
Why would this president believe that when other presidents have not?
Because I think the military success in Venezuela, the Maduro raid, which was one raid that got rid of one leader, but this is what leaders do. They grow overconfident after one victory and apply it to a separate conflict. And I just want to stop. It's extraordinary what is happening right now. Iran is sort of holding off the U.S. The Vice President of the United States is waiting to get on a plane. And it's, and the United States just proposed to spend $1.5 trillion just today on its defense budget. That is the biggest increase since year to year since World War II. We have so much more weaponry than they do, but our strategy just seems off.
We're also talking, it's the Qataris, right? Bailing out the Qataris for the damage that they've sustained. So we're not even just spending money on our own defense. We're talking about spending money on compensating an ally in the region for a war that we started.
All of this is going badly for the Trump administration.